Hey guys, a lot is going on at Campi Phlegraean. I have news for you. Not so good ones in many ways and several not so good news. Some that I really don't like. I'll tell you about that. And maybe you have seen my video where I asked the question, why are they not raising the alert level? Guys, I do know now. And I think you will not like it the same way I don't like it. So I'll tell you about this in the video. The INGV released their new bulletin for the last week, and we will talk about that. But, you know, let's look into what is going on at Campi Flegrei, the burning fields, Europe's largest active caldera volcano and one of the most dangerous volcanoes in the world. So when Campi Flegrei was first formed, that was nearly 40,000 years ago, and it produced an eruption with 200 cubic kilometers of magma that it was spewing out into the atmosphere. There's two ways of eruptions that this volcano can produce. So we could be seeing a magmatic eruption when magma is being spit out of the volcano, or a phreatic eruption where it's just spitting like hot gases that cause an explosion, fluids and ash particles and small rock particles. So it's basically a big explosive blast. If you've seen what happened in White Island in New Zealand, that was something like that too. So you can't predict which one will happen and if and when, but there are signs. When Campi Flegrei last erupted in 1538, it was going on over 8 days, and it has deposited enough material, enough magma to create a new hill to form a crater, and that's called Monte Nuovo. You see it here on that map. So that's a little bit of a higher crater than the other ones that you see there that look like bomb craters. Campi Flegrei stretches in an area around 100 kilometers and also into the sea, into the Gulf of Naples at the front of Pozzuoli. So the seismic activity that was happening already back in 1984, where magma was on the move but did not erupt. So it must have created an intrusion. That's what it calls. If magma moves, if magma is moving, trying to get to the surface, it needs to build a new tunnel, like miners that are building mining tunnels. So that creates rumbling and earthquakes. So it seems the magma was on the move up, but there's this layer of cap rock. So you see this in the map behind me. There's the cap rock layer, then you see the land uplift, the bradyseism house it's called. We have a bradyseism right now where the land is lifting up, so that means something underneath is pushing the land upwards. And you see the fumaroles that are coming out there as well, especially in the area that they call Solfatara, that one crater that has the fumaroles as well. And then in the 1980s, when that magmatic intrusion happened, they had to evacuate 40,000 people, Pozzuoli and the area around it. They were evacuated from downtown, but then no eruption occurred, right? It was an intrusion like it happened in Iceland, in Grindavik on November 10th. The town was rattled and quite damaged by earthquakes, but only an intrusion on November 10th only was forming a 15-kilometer long underground magma dike. But we know what followed, like eruption after eruption. We just had the 5th eruption that was ending. So same scenario here, only with Campi Flegrei, the time frames are longer. And what is scary, guys, and what you need to know, and they don't say this out in the open anymore. And if you've watched my previous videos, I've been wondering, why are they only talking about evacuation plans because of bradyseism? That means like the ground is lifting up and the earthquakes are there. So they say, yeah, we must evacuate because of the earthquakes, and we must seismically upgrade the buildings so that they don't collapse and that they're safe, yada, yada, yada. And I'm always probably wondering, like, why don't you take it into your mouth and say there could be a probable potential volcanic eruption, and that will be super devastating. And, you know, experts are saying it's not probable that an evacuation would really save the people, would be successful, because it's so densely populated. So the only guy that is kind of criticizing and speaking out loud is the Minister of Civil Defense, Musumeci, because he said that it was even allowed to settle on the volcano, on the calderas, that there's so many people is criminal. And he blames the politicians in the past. He says business and making money was more important than the people in that area. So politicians did their business. For some reason, it was feasible making money by building there, handing out permits and stuff like this. But you know, in 2023, end of 2023, the Civil Department, the Department of Civil Protection has said they put the probability of a small to average sized eruption at 95%. And scientists have said even a small eruption would be devastating. So that was in December when there were other earthquake swarms. They were all scared and really, really upset about a magnitude 4 earthquake there. And it has rattled the population. And then the officials said, if these earthquake swarms continue, we will raise the alert level to orange, which would mean evacuation of prisons, hospitals, and voluntary evacuation of the people in this area. So basically like 1984. So the earthquake swarms have continued and they have increased. And another sign that's basically happening before an eruption is the Brady seism. So that has since mid-April doubled. So the land used to rise with 1 centimeter per month. Now it's rising with 2 centimeters per month. And the earthquake swarms got more intense. Almost every week we have one. And on May 20th, we had a 4.4. They're saying the largest one in 40 years, but 40 years ago, it wasn't that large. So it's probably the largest one in couple hundred years. So it is significant, but they didn't raise the alert level. The alert level is still on yellow, and there were scientists. Roberto Scandone said in March, he's a seasoned scientist, worked for the University of Rome, worked for the Vesuvius Observatory, still active there, for the INGV, the Italian Institute of Volcanology and Geochemistry, that observes Campi Flegrei. Their measuring stations are there, so he's an expert. He's been doing this for decades. He has written papers about it. He said back in March, if I had the resources, I would evacuate right now. He said that in March before the 4.4. So look at the list of the earthquakes. It's been going on almost every day here right now that it has been rumbling, right? So they have released their INGV.it. They have released their weekly bulletin. They're saying in the week from June 17th to June 23rd, so that's the time frame of their bulletin, but we will look at the list of earthquakes in a few seconds, what has happened since then. But in the last week of their reporting time, they have recorded 55 earthquakes with a magnitude larger than 0, with the largest one that had a magnitude of 3.4, and they were all located in the Campi Flegrei area, and they all came with a roar, and they were all shaking the residents and scaring the residents. The deformation speed with which the land rise is occurring, they say, is still at 2 centimeters per month. And then they have released this earthquake map of the Campi Flegrei just the earthquakes for the week from June 17th to 23rd. And then you can see the larger the blue circle, the larger is the earthquake. So that one blue circle, that's the 3.4 probably. And so you see they have been also in the water. So what they're saying is, should there be an eruption in the water, that will send a tsunami to the coast of Naples, could be as high as 100 feet, that's 30 meters. So you see, it's very concentrated in that area, and it keeps in that area. So all the last weeks and months, it's always been in that area, underneath Pozzuoli, underneath the Solfatara. There they have new graphs that show the land rise from all of their various measuring stations. So basically they all confirm the same. The blue dots, they represent the daily changes that they have calculated with their measuring stations. And where you have the larger blue lines, that's basically where we are right now. So it's constantly on the rise. What we can say is, for quite a while, magma and volcanic gases are increasingly active at Campi Flegrei, where in direct proximity, hundreds of thousands of people would be at risk from a volcanic eruption of Campi Flegrei, because it's just outside of Naples. Even the outskirts of Naples are still touching it, and it's so highly densely populated within the danger zone of one of the world's most dangerous volcanoes. There's a cluster of towns, of Italian towns, that are on yellow alert, not on orange. And I will tell you why, and it's quite shocking, guys. Does it surprise me? If you watch my Iceland videos, nope, it doesn't surprise me anymore. So last summer, the frequency of the small and persistent earthquakes that have become a familiar presence for the residents since the 1980s has began to intensify, and it has even intensified more this year. So just in the month of May, they had the most earthquakes ever in 1 month, over 1,500 earthquakes. Already for the past decade, and even longer for a past decade, the ground beneath the little town of Pozzuoli has been rising at rates of up to 1 to 2 centimeters per year. We're at 2 per year. This year in April, it has doubled. So 3 kilometers beneath the surface, there's an accumulation of volcanic gases that is stretching the Earth's crust upwards. Plus, there seems to be a magma chamber at a depth of roughly 4 to 4.5 kilometers. That was confirmed in a groundbreaking study just a few weeks ago. So magma could push it back up, or the volcanic gases. Both is not good. It's stretching the Earth's crust. And a new study has found out that compared to the 1980s, when we had that Brady seism with that magma intrusion that we just talked about, the cap rock layer only has 1/3 of its strength left, because by these various Brady seismic events, lift up, land subsidence, land lift, land subsidence, the crust gets brittle. So that makes a volcanic eruption even more likely. And you have to understand this area. Campi Flegrei is only 5 kilometers west of Vesuvius. And in between these two volcanoes that are really, really bad guys, lies Naples and the greater Naples area. We're talking about more than 3 million people here, guys. So although they're not directly linked, but both volcanoes are products of Italy's location. Italy's located on the boundary of two converging tectonic plates. But Campi Flegrei is different from its neighbor Vesuvius. It looks completely different. Vesuvius looks like how you imagine a volcano, but Campi Flegrei has an unassuming appearance from the surface. 1/3 of it lies below the water under the Gulf of Naples. And most of the rest of the volcanic area is densely populated. But Campi Flegrei is an active caldera, Europe's largest active caldera that consists of 24 craters and as well as numerous gassy fumaroles, bubbling lakes, and boiling ponds of mud. And if this were to erupt, they're saying roughly 500,000 people would need to be evacuated, but probably more. And now let's talk about the alert level. So remember, end of last year, they said, if this continues, we will raise the alert level, but they haven't. So when Italy's Minister of Civil Protection, Nello Musumeci, met with local government officials last November already, his advice was to prepare for the possible need to move to an orange level alert quickly. And that was met with resistance from the other officials. And why, you would ask? Why? Why was it met with resistance? So, a volcanologist and senior researcher at Italy's National Institute of Geophysics and Volcanology, the Vesuvius Observatory, the INGV, his name is Giuseppe Mastrolorenzo, he said, and that's kind of sad, scary, is it upsetting? I don't know, guys. Tell me what you feel when you hear what I'm about to say. So he said, regarding raising the alert level, why was it met with resistance? He said, people worry when you start talking about volcanic risk. That's why they're only talking about earthquakes, seismic risks, bradyseism. Let's rehearse evacuations for seismic risks. And then they just wanted to do, or did, a rehearsal June 25th, I think today. Yesterday, it's June 26th already. 30,000 people should have taken part in that exercise, Pozzuoli basically. Only 250 people registered because they're tired of these earthquakes. They say, well, we have the earthquakes all the time, so whatever, right? But there's something behind that rehearsal. That's my opinion, because they know if they have to evacuate, it's not going to be because of seismic risk. And if there's a higher seismic swarm, usually an eruption comes with a high seismic swarm. The seismic swarm comes first, and then depends on how much warning time you have, the eruption follows. And here comes the next thing that's even worse. You know, he says people worry when you start talking about volcanic risk. Well, would you think that this is the residents that start to worry? Yeah, but what he means is not only the residents, and that's why I said, think about Iceland. He says they worry that all the tourists will leave and that the house prices will collapse. Does that ring a bell? There's one place that's open all the time until they have to do another emergency evacuation, right? Our Lagoonies. If you're new here, subscribe to my channel, check out my Iceland videos about that place. So they're worried about tourists, yes. When that big earthquake swarm happened back in May, the UK was issuing a travel warning for that area. And I know, as bad as it is, and as bad as I feel for the people that live off tourism, I wouldn't go traveling there. Let me know, guys, what would you do? But what that INGV guy is saying is they're not raising the alert level because that might scare away profits. That's my interpretation. So residents that live on the Campi Flegrei highest risk area, that's the red zone, that includes the towns that have a lot of tourists, Pozzuoli, Baccioli, Monte di Procida, and Quarto. And the residents, yes, they are used to the activity of this restless volcano, but they're scared because it increases. Since 2005, the ground around the center of this caldera has been in continual uplift. And you have to imagine, because of that, I mean, that has been going on for decades, but the last active bradyseism phase began in 2005. But overall, over the past 70 years, parts of the town of Pozzuoli have risen by as much as 4 meters, guys. Imagine you live somewhere and your house is rising 4 meters. The water levels in the bay of Pozzuoli have dropped drastically, and that has threatened the future of Pozzuoli's port, because as you can imagine, if the land rises, the water level gets lower, and then the boats can't go in and out anymore. You would have to excavate the port again. Different in Iceland, in Grindavik, the port was sinking after the first intrusion. So basically the people that work in the boat and the port, the fishermen, were happy because they said, now we can bring in bigger boats. That's a good thing. But you know, it wasn't a good thing because all these eruptions followed. There were similar peaks of seismic activity that have occurred in the 1950s, in the 1970s, and in 1984, when a rapid uplift prompted the evacuation of the 40,000 people that I have mentioned from downtown Pozzuoli. And this ground deformation has, of course, caused a lot of damage to building facades and cracks in the roads. And as a result of earlier periods of subsidence, because when it's rising, it keeps subsiding and then it's rising again. There's parts of an ancient Roman spa town called Baie on the outskirts of Pozzuoli that is now submerged 10 meters below sea level. So it's not that we can take it lightly what's going on there. So let me know your opinion, guys. Do you think they're not raising the alert level because of money and because of tourism? Let's discuss this, guys. Thanks for being here. If you want to support my channel, guys, I have a website. It's called buymeacoffee.com/silky24. The link is here in the description. Subscribe there. It's for free. I'll send out emails if there's a new eruption or something interesting going on. And thank you so much for your support there and for your supers that you keep sending me here. It helps my channel a lot, and I'm very grateful for you guys. I'm out of here. Have a good morning, afternoon, or a night. And I hope I'll see you soon again here on my channel. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.